How's it going, everyone? Data here, and the Seattle Expansion Draft is right around the corner. The NHL's protected lists have just come out this morning. I just put them into the system here on Cap Friendly. All the teams have the proper players selected, and I'm going to build the team according to how I think this draft is going to go. I'm not saying necessarily the best players. I don't know. I know there's going to be all kinds of backdoor deals going on that I have no knowledge of, but I'm going to say if I were the general manager of the Seattle Kraken, what players would I be taking with all things considered? I don't think that Carrie Price will be selected, for example. I'm going to get more into that as this video goes on. Kind of a podcast style episode. I'm going to try not to have any breaks, just keep going through the whole thing. I got Hockey DB ready to go on the side here for any stats we got to pull up on the computer. So let's get going. If you didn't already see all the protected lists, you can go ahead and look those up. I won't go through every single teams, but there are some very notable players who have been left unprotected. On the Colorado Avalanche, you have Gabriel Landeskog. On the Montreal Canadiens, as we've mentioned, there is Shea Weber and Carrie Price, as you all know, but also Jonathan Drouin. So that was a little bit surprising. I guess it was in favor of taking a guy like Arturi Lehkonen or Jake Evans, which I understand the argument for. On the St. Louis Blues, you have Vladimir Tarasenko, even Jane Schwartz, but the guys who are UFAs, it's less likely that they get taken because you have to really bank on them signing with you. So, for example, Alex Ovechkin, unprotected, but he's a free agent. Very, very slim odds that he goes to Seattle and does not sign back with the Capitals. So I wouldn't be worried about that too much. So with all that taken into consideration, you can look up the list of all 30 teams. There's 325 players protected, so I don't want to go through every single one of them, but there are definitely some very good candidates, and I want to move into drafting the team. So according to the protected players that I've put into the system, the computer, the capfriendly.com/expansion draft tells me these are the players that I may choose from. As the GM of the Seattle Kraken now, I must draft 30 players, a minimum of 14 forwards, 9 defensemen, 3 goalies, and I have to make sure that I'm above the cap floor and below the cap, the salary cap maximum, I guess you'd call it. So we have to make sure that we are following all those things. That means we'll probably come back and make some changes as we go. So here we are, starting off with the Anaheim Ducks. I think this one's fairly simple. We have to really be careful of the cap hit, especially if we're going to be taking on guys like Tarasenko and Landeskog if we want to try and do that. So I don't think now is the time to try and hit the cap floor by taking on a contract like Adam Henrique or even Kevin Shattenkirk. If I were the GM of the Kraken, I would be taking Sonny Milano right here. There are some good defensemen like Fleury and Larson here, but there are some really, really good defensemen down the road. So I don't think I'd spend one of my 9 or 10 or whatever, 11 defenseman selections here. So I will start off with Sonny Milano on the Anaheim Ducks. Welcome to the Seattle Kraken. I'll just quickly look up the stats right here on Milano. Sonny Milano, he is coming off of a small season, I guess you could call it. 6 games in the NHL, 2 games in the AHL. His career numbers are not bad with 47 points in 131 games. He showed some great promise in the AHL. So I think he would be a fine player for a prospect / bottom 6 forward who can maybe become a middle 6 guy who is only 25 years old. So lots of room to grow. Moving on to the Arizona Coyotes. Obviously, not going to be taking a guy like Andrew Ladd, I don't think. I am tempted to look at Antti Ranta here. I will keep him in mind. He is a little bit injury prone, as we know. Alex Goligoski is extremely tempting, but he is 35 years of age and an expiring free agent. So I think it probably comes down, in my mind, to Christian Fischer and Ilya Labushkin, I think is how I always say it, but sometimes I say it differently. So I would, in a perfect world, I would likely take Jason Demers or Nick Jarmelson. Probably more Jason Demers, but again, it's risky with the UFA status. If I'm the GM of Seattle Kraken, I try to talk to him during the little period that I have to talk in the next few days before the expansion draft. If it doesn't work out, I'm taking Christian Fischer, and he is a good two-way guy, especially in NHL 21. But I need to remember this is not NHL 21. I need to remember this is the real world. I'm thinking Mike Fisher here. I need to put the CH there, Christian Fischer. So with the Coyotes, he had a better season than the year before, as he put up 11 points, but in 4 more games. I wouldn't say he's really an offensive threat, so to say, but he is like I said, a two-way forward, better for the bottom six. Not bad at all. You got to fill your team somewhere, and the big boys are coming later. So that would be my selection most likely from the Arizona Coyotes. Boston Bruins now, though. This is extremely tempting because you could take one of the big four right here in these free agents. Maybe Kasha, you say, okay, he's he was struggling a bit, injuries. Nick Richie, same thing, whatever. But Krejci and Hall are both extremely tempting. Krejci would be a second-line center with great leadership. Tuukka Rask would be your starting goaltender. John Moore is a solid defenseman. So all very tempting. In a perfect world, I am absolutely selecting Taylor Hall, I think. I need a good first-line sniper. And I think complementing whoever my first-line center is with a winger tandem of Hall and Tarasenko, for example, would be amazing. I don't know if Taylor Hall is down to join Seattle. I think he wants to chase a cup. I don't think Krejci is going to be leaving Boston either. So I don't think either of those two would make a lot of sense. John Moore is a good defenseman. It would be nice to take him. Again, there are better defensemen down the road, I believe. So I think just for the moment, I'm going to go ahead and select Nick Richie. Now, if I do go and look at Kasha, last season, he only got to play 3 games because of injury, 6 games the year before with the Bruins. He had played 49 with the Ducks. In those 49 with the Ducks, he was looking good, 23 points. He has been, like I said, those injuries have been hurting him. Meanwhile, Nick Richie also been facing injuries, but a little bit of a larger sample size. There's a lot of Richies over here. Last season, in 56 games, he put up 26 points. So, you know what? I think he wants to get paid. I don't know if the Bruins have it. Let's go Nick Richie. Moving on to the Buffalo Sabres now. 0% chance I take Skinner or Okposo. I don't think I take Zemgus either. I'm leaning towards taking Colin Miller here. This is going to be a third pair defenseman for me. I know he could play second pair. Maybe he does do that, but he is signed for another season. His cap hit is digestible. He's 28 years of age. I don't have too much to say about this selection. I think it has to be Colin Miller. Zemgus is tempting for a fourth, third-line center. So is Cody Eakin. But I do think that Colin Miller is the guy. Eakin could be one of the few players to be selected by Vegas and Seattle if he gets taken. But I'm going to go Colin Miller here. Calgary Flames, Mark Giordano is extremely tempting, has another year of term as well. He's not on an expiring deal. His cap hit is, it's substantial. It's 6.7, but it's there for a reason. I know I'm only looking at points here. I'm not really looking at block shots and hits and all those other intangibles, but he does put up the points. 26 and 56 last year, a bit of a down season, but not very far removed from 74, that crazy season in 18-19. I think he still got it. Can he do that same role that he has been doing in Calgary on Seattle, though? That's a different question. But at the same time, there's no chance I'm taking Milan Lucic. And none of these other guys, these names are really tempting me that much. Derek Ryan would be a good fourth-line guy. Josh Levo as well. Shillington, his rights are RFA. So, you know what? As tempting as Giordano is, I have to think again about the cap floor. I think I might come back to Calgary, but for the moment, I would take Oliver Shillington and see when I come back if the cap is malleable enough, if that's the word for Mark Giordano. Carolina Hurricanes now, they left Dougie Hamilton unprotected. It's same for Jake Gardiner because they wanted to protect Shea, Slavin, and Pesci. Both their goalies, Reimer and Ratchik, are expiring UFA, so I don't want to touch those. Jake Bean now, extremely tempting. Anyone who plays NHL 21 or NHL 20 would absolutely be taking Jake Bean with his potential as an offensive defenseman to boot. Nino Niederreiter would be very nice. He has term. He can still score goals. If I just look up I don't even know how to spell that. Nino Niederreiter. Copy pasted right there. That's much better. Niederreiter. 34 points in 56 games last season. Nothing too shabby. 20 goals in 56 games is not bad at all. So it is tempting. And if I go back here, again, I need to keep in mind the scoring down the road. I think Jake Bean would be a nice prospect to get in the system, and he's an RFA. I think staying on Carolina, he knows that it's a pretty jammed system. There's a log jam at the defensive in the top 4 defense. So I'm going to go Jake Bean here and hope that he wants to have a career in Seattle. Chicago Blackhawks, they don't offer much, but Colin Dalia and Malcolm Subban are both extremely interesting as backup goalies. When I think about the Vegas Golden Knights, they didn't just take starting goaltenders. They took Calvin Pickard, they took Jean-François Berube, they took guys who needed to be in their system. They signed Oscar Dansk and Maxime Lagacé, all those guys. So I could see Malcolm Subban or Colin Dalia being people who could be in the system, not necessarily the everyday starter. At the same time, I don't think I'm going to touch Brett Connolly. At the same time, a guy like Ryan Carpenter at a $1 million cap hit is very nice. Calvin DeHaan, a bit too rich for my blood there at 4.55. So purely because it's such a good goalie market, I'm going to pass for the moment on Dalia and Subban. I might come back to them, but I'm going to go ahead and say Ryan Carpenter right now. Has term, cheap cap hit. We got to take those guys somewhere. Now the Colorado Avalanche. This is going to be a simple one and a really juicy one. It has to be Gabriel Landeskog. And you might be saying, oh no, he's a UFA. How do you know he's going to sign? Here's my prediction. I predict that in the talking period that Vegas has now between today, July 18th, the 19th, the 20th, and I suppose maybe the morning of the 21st, they're going to convince Gabriel Landeskog that you are going to be the guy, you're going to be the captain, you're going to be first line, you're going to get paid, and as fun as it is over in Colorado, long term, you're not going to be able to get paid when McKinnon, Makar, and all these guys need money. So I don't think Landeskog necessarily wants to leave, but as we've been reading in the news, they're at an impasse right now, and I think that it's going to be him in the end. Would it be a bit risky to take him and then he just goes to free agency? Absolutely. But if I'm the GM and I think Ron Francis knows what he's doing, Gabe Landeskog is going to be a Seattle Kraken. That is my prediction. That is my selection. Moving to the Columbus Blue Jackets now, another easy one. It has to be Max Domi here. It's, sometimes you might say too good to be true, but it has to be. $5.3 million. I know he's going to be an expiring free agent after next season. But still, the guy's 26 years old. He's a couple seasons removed from 72 points. He's had some injury trouble this past year, presumably perhaps why he only put up 24 and 54. Very undisciplined year with 75 penalty minutes. Very frustrating season. I'm going to chalk that up to maybe being torts or trading away half the team at the deadline. I think Max Domi is a great catch for Seattle, and I think that Columbus is going to regret it in the long term here. And it's unfortunate because they traded Josh Anderson for him, and they were really expecting big things. But it makes sense why the Canadians traded him, because they knew he'd be expiring, they knew he'd want money, and I guess that deal just worked out. If I'm not taking Max Domi, I'm definitely taking a defenseman, though. There are some good bottom six guys, third pairing guys in Gabriel Carlson, Harrington, Kukan, but at Max Domi, it has to be. It's a no-brainer in my mind. Moving to the Dallas Stars. Ben Bishop, 34 years of age, has 2 more years on his contract, has some injury issues, we know that, but I've been talking a lot about Ben Bishop with people in my life, and they've been telling me the guy's a phony, he's an imposter, his numbers are blown up. But you know what, when I really look at it, he's been on good teams, yes, but the guy has over 400 games and a .921 save percentage to boast with 2.32 goals against. Look at a season like 18-19 here. 46 games played, 1.98 goals against average, .934 save percentage. Yeah, he's had some rough seasons here. With LA, it wasn't easy. With Tampa Bay here, 16, 12, and 3, whatever. But at the end of the day, he's 222, 128, and 36. This guy is good. This guy is a good goalie. He's still got a few seasons left in him. And yes, there are the injury issues. But I don't know if I'm going to put Bishop aside and instead take a risk on Alexiak or Vatanen or Cogliano, who are all free, older guys, especially Cogliano, who are free agents. I think this one also has to be Ben Bishop. If I'm not taking Ben Bishop, I don't know, maybe I take the rights to Julius Honka. He's over in Europe. Maybe I think about a young guy like Nick Camano or Joël L'Espérance. But I think it's got to be Ben Bishop here. Sakara is also tempting, but not as tempting as Benny. Got to go Big Benny. Detroit Red Wings now. Big cap hits for sure. That's the good thing about being a bad team with big cap hits. You can just expose everyone and not have anything to worry about. Nielsen, Helm, Filppula, no problem there. Stahl, DeKaiser, I don't think they're getting taken. I don't think Bernier is getting taken as a UFA either. I think this one has to be Vlad Nemesnikov. He has term a little bit, still has some youth, doesn't have a huge cap hit. If I'm looking at making a little bit of a risk, maybe I go for Evgeny Sveshnikov, as I can acquire his RFA rights. But if I want a good third-line player right now, I think Nemesnikov is the guy. And like I said, we pull up the stats of some guys we want to know more about. Can I talk and type at the same time? Looks like I can. Nemesnikov, 17 points in 53 games last season, 206 and 478 in his career. Give him a full season with some good line mates. He has shown that he can do it before. 44 points with the Lightning here, 31 with the Rangers there, 25 with the Senators there. So he's bounced around a lot of teams. I think he can finally settle down for a few seasons with Seattle. I think he would be likely to re-sign with them as well for a nice little deal after 2022 expiration. So I'll go Vlad Nemesnikov right there. We're already at 7 forwards, 3 defense, so I got to keep in mind who's actually going to be on the team. So like I said, there will be some refinement most likely. Moving on to the Edmonton Oilers. Now, again, almost too good to be true, but I think we got to go Oscar Klefbom here. Maybe there's a deal in place for Klefbom to not be taken since he was not protected. Adam Larsson's a UFA. I would not risk it. Barry, UFA, would not risk it, and he wants to get paid big time. Klefbom is a very good defenseman. Yes, there's the injuries. So I was reading that he might be gone for all of next season, I believe, Oscar Klefbom, but 34 points in 62 games this last season, well, in 19-20. So I was reading that he might still be gone for the entire 2021-22 season. If that's the case, I'm saying I think there's enough talent to take this guy and stash him away. If that's not Seattle's thinking, okay, no problem. Maybe you just go for a guy like Kyle Turris. You take him, make him your third-line center, whatever, for a season at $1.65 million. Not a big deal. I could also absolutely see that. I don't think they go for Mikko Koskinen or Mike Smith. I don't think they take a younger guy. There aren't a ton of, Tyler Benson does give some, that's probably the only guy that gives me some second thoughts here. Tyler Benson, a lot of Bensons in the NHL history. Tyler Benson, 36 points in 36 games in the AHL. Over in Swiss, is that the second division of Swiss or first? I'm not sure, but 13 points in 15 games there. So I'm trying to think about what would Seattle do, and then also what would I be doing. So if it was me, I'd probably take Klefbom and stash him away, but I think that they might go Benson. I'm going to come back to Edmonton. We're going to see what kind of defense we have to look at later on. Florida Panthers. Anton Stralman is great, but $5.5 million at the age of 34. I'm not so sure about that one. Nola Chari, Frank Vetrano, these are some pretty good forwards here, but we all know Chris Driedger is the guy. It's already been talked about. It's already been pretty much locked in that he will be selected and signed. So thankfully, I don't even need to think about this because I was torn a bit between Vetrano and Chari, especially, even Nudi Vera. But Chris Driedger will be the backup / share some starts in the crease for the Kraken, and it's an easy pick. LA Kings now, not a lot of great players to choose from, unfortunately. Jonathan Quick, I don't think he's going to get taken at that cap hit. Oli Mata is tempting. I've said that word a million times, and I will continue to say it. Athanasiou does pose some interest, but as an RFA, and he's been going off a cliff a little bit the last few seasons. If I just look at Oli Mata, didn't spell it right, but that's okay. 4 points in 41 games, -8. Never been a massive points guy, so I know this is just hockey DB, but he's 6'2", 206, only 26 years of age, a former first-round pick in 2012. I think it might be Oli Mata. I could absolutely see them going for a younger guy like Cale Clague, though, because Clague, I don't think he's had much. He has had, what, 9 games? 9 games of NHL experience, I think. 22 games. In the AHL, at 12 points in 23 games. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go Cale Clague here. I didn't think this out fully before doing this video, so I'm going to go Cale Clague. It's good to get some youth. We can't have all just NHL players. So I do think that is the Kings. That will be the player taken from the Kings. Carl Grundstrom, also interesting. I've seen his young guns in like every box opening that I've watched on YouTube, so there's some youth, a little bit of youth to think about. Minnesota Wild now, Kaapo Kähkönen is extremely enticing because he is an RFA, he has starter potential, not just in NHL, I'm saying in reality, and he could really be something good for Seattle. The thing is, though, if you're already taking Drieger and you're already going to be taking another starting goalie, that bumps Kähkönen to your third goalie spot. Do you want to be having that? I'm not sure. At the same time, there's also some good players like Carson Soucy, but on a tough cap hit. There's also Will Bitton. If I'm Minnesota, I'm begging them to take Victor Rask, but I don't think that's going to happen. Again, unless there's some sort of backdoor deal going on, which is very possible. But if I am the GM, I am probably going to take Kaapo Kähkönen and let the goalies duel it out, and you can never have too much talent in the system. If need be, Kähkönen is my minor league starter. I don't know if he'd be happy about that. It's difficult for me to gauge because Kähkönen was splitting starts, 24 games, went 16-8-0. But, are 29 games enough to say that you're a lock for NHL starts and NHL action for the rest of your career now? I don't know. He might have another stint in the AHL in him. So I'd probably take Kähkönen. I could definitely see the arguments for Nick Bjugstad and for Will Bitton and even for Mason Shaw here. That's really making me think here. Mason Shaw, because we know how good he is in NHL, but I need to keep my brain out of NHL and just think about reality here. He had 22 points in 30 games with the Iowa Wild. I'm surprised that he's even eligible. How come he is eligible? I'm not exactly sure. 27 games required to meet the exposure requirement. Then why isn't he exempt then? Not totally sure. Maybe it has to do with age since he's 22? Yeah, I suppose that's it. You know what? What the heck? Mason Shaw, get over to Seattle. All right, Les Canadiens de Montréal. Now, here we go. This is where I got to get into some talking here a little podcast action. Say it with me. Lock it in. Put it in the history books. Carrie Price is not being selected by Seattle. Furthermore, he is retiring a Montreal Canadien, and that is the end of the story. There is no chance that Mark Bergevino is unprotecting Carrie Price without a plan in mind. They're not giving up a first and whatever either. If they wanted to protect Allen, they would have protected Price, left Allen unprotected, and then made a deal. There's no way they leave Price unprotected to make a deal to protect Allen. They don't risk that. No chance. There is absolutely a deal in place. Carrie Price's wife put on her Instagram story that don't worry, it'll all make sense soon. I have no worries whatsoever. Hashtag trust in Bergevino. I've been saying it since day one. I am a Bergevino believer. I love Bergevin. I'm one of the few, and I'm not afraid to say it. There's been a few questionable moves, sure, but I am a fan of his. And Carrie Price is not leaving. Does it make sense? Absolutely. Elite goalie. Bang. It's going to cost too much, 10.5. They have money. Oh, it's going to be an $11 million signing bonus. Yeah, but after that, there's every year after that is a $1 million signing bonus, I believe. They can scrounge up $11 million. They have a hockey team. They just bought it for hundreds of millions. They can scrounge together $11 million. Yes, it makes sense, and they would be able to, but there's no chance it's happening. If he does get selected, I'm gonna come back to this video and just laugh at myself. But it can't be that Bergevin does not have a plan and is just letting him go unprotected and just rolling the dice, 100% gamble, hasn't had any contact with Seattle, and let's hope for the best. Now, that being said, who's getting taken by the Kraken? I don't think they're going to take any of these UFAs. Tatar, Danault, all these guys want to test free agency, especially Danault. So that's not going to happen. All these defensemen, I don't think so. Maybe Cale Fleury makes sense, but if I'm the Kraken, I'm having conversations, and it's still very much up in the air. I got to talk to Jonathan Drouin, I got to talk to Shea Weber, and then I would probably take Cale Fleury if it doesn't work out. Now, if I talk to Jonathan Drouin, and he tells me I'm ready to go, I got all my things together, I got everything sorted out, thank you for the time off, I'm ready to go next season, absolutely, Jonathan Drouin, I'm taking him. Yeah, it's fun to laugh at him because he's not as good as Sergachev, but he's still a very serviceable NHL player. The guy, the last 2 seasons have been difficult, but play him a full season, 46, 53, no problem. That's a good player right there. Smack him on your second line and you're smiling. So if Drouin's good to go, it has to be Jonathan Drouin. It has to be. But if he's not ready to go, if he's still out for the year, kind of like the Clefbaum situation, I'm not going to risk or even just bother taking this guy who's going to be like, because it's difficult when it's family issues and things like that. It's not an injury that has a timetable. He's coming back on this day. It's very up in the air. So if I don't know if he's ever coming back and I end up losing him, well, then I'd rather take Cale Fleury, who's a 22-year-old defenseman. Same with Shea Weber. If Shea Weber tells me, yeah, I'm going to be out for a few months, rehabbing this, surgery that, but then I'm down to come play for another, 2-3 seasons, I'll be your leader, I'll be your captain, me and Landeskog, we're going to work hard. Sure, I'll take Shea Weber. But, maybe it's a massive ruse. It's all a scam from Bergevin. And he leaked all this in the media just so that he could protect Sherratt and Edmondson and not have to expose them. Maybe Weber comes back. Who knows? But if Weber is indeed done for his career, they're not going to take those recapture penalties and blah, blah, blah. They're not going to deal with that contract. Seattle's just literally giving money for no reason. So I'm going to play it safe here. I'm going to go Cale Fleury. But like I said, it is absolutely going to be Jonathan Drouin if he is fully healthy. So Cale Fleury, just to remind you, he only played, he played a lot of games here. 41 games in the NHL, third-round pick. In Laval, he's been all right. I don't know, though. I'm still very torn on this guy. Like I said, this is me working it out as I go. I didn't make all these selections prior. So Cale Fleury or Jonathan Drouin, it has to be. And you know what? Let's just do it. Jonathan Drouin. I'm going to risk it. All right, Nashville Predators. Duchesne, Johansson, big names, big contracts. Goodbranson, none of those guys are getting taken. Matthew Benning, I don't know if that's really an idea. Connor Ingram is very, very interesting. He could be your goalie in the AHL for another couple seasons, and then he's good to go as your backup. He hasn't played any NHL action yet. Third-round pick back in 2016. He had some great numbers with Milwaukee, especially in 2019-20. Only played 5 games in 2021 with the Chicago Wolves. But in Sweden, he looked okay, 5-4-0 for a league like that, 2.51 goals against. So he's extremely interesting. But again, there are guys like Nick Cousins who has term. Calle Yarncrow has term. Colton Sissons has term. Especially look at Colton Sissons till 2026. So the Predators are one of the most difficult teams to figure out in my mind. Colton Sissons, 15 points, 30 points. Gets a point every third or fourth game here-ish. He's an important kind of glue guy, if I could describe him like that. He's a glue guy. So I do like Yarncrow or Sissons in this selection. Connor Ingram does really speak to me at the same time. What was his last name? Crow with a K on the end. Yeah. So second round pick in 2010, 28 points there, 34 points there. So he has less term than Sissons. But I'm going to say Calle Yarncrow goes to Seattle, as tempting as Connor Ingram is as a backup. He's 24 years old, hasn't played any NHL yet. Maybe they're a bit concerned about if he'll ever make it. Let's go Calle Yarncrow. New Jersey Devils now. I think this one really just comes down to 2 players. Or actually, no, 3. It's going to be either Andreas Janssen, PK Subban, or Will Butcher. I don't see anyone else even really being a remote possibility. I doubt Nathan Bastian gets taken. I know in NHL, medium top 6 potential or power forward for the chemistry and all that. Yeah, 10 points in 41 games is good, and 38 and 62 in the AHL is also good. So Bastian would not surprise me at all, but Andreas Janssen would be a great middle 6 forward, as he really displayed some skill over on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Did I spell that wrong? There we go, New Jersey Devils. So yeah, only 11 points in 50 games after his 2 seasons here in Toronto were pretty solid. So I don't know if I see it. It's definitely, again, it wouldn't surprise me, but I think this is where you go defenseman. $9 million for PK Subban is it's a lot. Will Butcher, he's 26, he's 6 years younger, same contract, but like $5.25 million cheaper. I don't think PK Subban makes sense. As fun as it does sound to say that PK Subban's going to go to Seattle, I think Will Butcher has to be the selection. And I am a bit surprised that the Devils didn't protect him, actually. He's been there ever since he signed as a free agent because he didn't want to go to Colorado. And he's been a fixture there. He had 44 points in that first season. He had a point every. He was really good, actually, this 2021 season before getting injured. Maybe it has to do with injury why he's being unprotected, but if I'm Seattle, I'm taking Will Butcher. Now, the New York Islanders have really surprised me here, protecting like Matt Martin, for example, instead of Eberle, Bailey, and all these other guys who have terms. So I think it absolutely comes down to Eberle or Bailey. Both are the same age. Both are expiring in 2024. $5 million cap hit versus 5.5. I lean Josh Bailey. Let's just quickly look at their stats once again to just get a little bit of a refresher. There's a million Baileys. Joshua Bailey, there he is. He's been on the Islanders his entire career. He was a first-round pick. Yeah, 9th overall in 2008. 35 points in 54 games this last season. 511 points in close to 1,000 games. He's a season away from 1,000 games. He'd probably end up having like 550 points in 1,000 games with the Islanders. So, you know, he's been amazing. He had some 50, 70-point seasons back there. Jordan Eberle, though, no slouch either. He has showed his ability to score 25 goals consistently, but that consistency kind of dropped off the last couple seasons. Still getting 40 points in 58 games, 33 in 55. Very good player, but I do lean Josh Bailey in this situation, and I think that's going to be the guy that Seattle takes. Moving to the New York Rangers now. Not a lot to choose from. I think it would probably be Tyrone or Julien Gauthier. I don't know if they'd risk it to take Barclay Goodrow after the Rangers already traded for his rights and have been talking to him. D'Angelo's going to be bought out. Anthony Bitetto, don't see that happening. Defense aren't really tempting enough, neither is Keith Kincaid. Di Giuseppe, I don't think so either. So it comes down to Julien Gauthier and Tyrone. Tyrone, ex-Tech legend, we all know that. Just quickly get back to his stats. He has not played any NHL games yet. Point per game with Hartford this last season, 18 in 18. So that's good. There's some development, finally, because he had been a little bit scary there, 3 points in 23 games. But the other option, Julien Gauthier, always does pretty decently in NHL. But again, we got to remember that it's the real world. Oh, wrong one. Of course, there's a million Gauthiers. Wrong one. From Pointe-aux-Trembles in Quebec, and he had 8 points in 30 games this last season. 47 games in his career. AHL numbers were pretty solid. First round pick from the Hurricanes. I don't know if I had to choose today, probably Julien Gauthier because he has the extra term. If I had to say who's better right now, probably Tyrone. But I don't know. Gauthier's been playing NHL minutes and doing okay, while Roning's been doing very well with AHL minutes. All that to say, let's go Gauthier. Ottawa Senators now have exposed some interesting players, especially Evgeny Dadonov. Chris Tierney as well, also interesting. But I think I gotta go. I think this is simple enough. Gotta go Evgeny Dadonov. He is only making $5 million for another couple seasons. He's a perfect top six winger. He has the ability to really go off, as we've been seeing in Florida. He's been okay with Ottawa, well, not really actually. 20 points, 13 goals in 55 games. Meanwhile, look in Florida what he did with the right people around him. Now, granted, it was Barkov and Huberdeau and all that, but I think that Dadonov would do very well in Seattle, and I think that it has to be him. Now, you might be saying, oh, Kopaka, Abramov, there's some good prospects down here, Jean-Christophe Baudin, but I don't see it. I don't think so. Dadonov is, at that price tag, I think he's too good to pass up on. Philadelphia Flyers, and by the way, we're at $53.8 million here. Keep an eye on the salary cap. We're already at 14 forwards, so some of these guys are likely getting changed for defensemen. Do not fret. Philadelphia Flyers. Voracek is making 8.25 until 2024. JVR is making 7 until 2023. Ghost is making 4.5 till 2023. So it comes down to those three players most likely. Now they're probably trying to tempt the Kraken away from taking one of the younger players like Rubtsov here. So I can be tempted. I could be persuaded here. I think these names are big enough for me to say, yeah, I won't take your young players. Voracek, JVR, Ghost, all great players when they want to be, I want to say. Voracek, he's the worst when it comes to fantasy. The year you don't take him, he gets 55 points. Then the year you do take him, he gets 55. The year you don't, he gets 85 and 82. So I've always been cursed by Voracek in my fantasy hockey leagues. 43 and 53 this last season, really becoming more of a playmaker, even though he always was, but his goal scoring has been going down a little bit. If we look at JVR, though, he had 43 and 56. He is 32 years of age, consistently in that 20 to 30-ish goal range. So again, you have to think about the organizational makeup. Do I want a million snipers here in JVR, Tarasenko, Landeskog's a bit of a sniper sometimes. I can have 1,000 snipers here. So there's still refinement to be done, like I have said. For the moment, just for the moment, I'm going to put Voracek here. I know it's a bit crazy. I'm going to see if it works with the cap. I'm going to see if it works or not. If not, okay, no problem. We're going to come back, and I'll think about Ghost or Justin Braun. We're just going to put it there for the moment. Pittsburgh Penguins have exposed Jason Zucker, but I don't know if we can afford another $5.5 million cap hit here. At the same time, there aren't a ton of other options. Tanev making 3.5 till 2025. I don't know if I want that either, as good as he has been. Sam Lafferty might be the guy here, even though he's 26, nothing insane. He put up 6 points in 34 games, had 13 and 50 the year before. So he is absolutely a bottom 6 guy. Has another year at $750K. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to take Sam Lafferty because if I'm spending big bucks, I'd rather be doing it on some other guys. I don't think the salary works out. Marcus Pettersson as well, $4 million cap hit, 25 years of age. You might be saying, why am I completely just skimming over him? Again, it comes down to there being a lot of good defensemen, and I'm not sure if they all fit. That's why we come back later. Marcus Pettersson is in my mind. Ghost, Braun, those guys are all in my mind. Thomas Hickey was in my mind. PK Subban, etc. We'll come back. San Jose Sharks now. I think it's got to be Dylan Gambrell or Ryan Donato. I don't see either. I don't think Semek would get taken. Martin Jones is definitely not getting taken. Nick Mallock is very interesting from a prospect perspective, but Dylan Gambrell is also a good prospect. Again, thinking a bit in my NHL 21 mind, but I do like Dylan Gambrell in the real world as well. He's been good for the Barracuda. He had, 12 points in 15 games in the NHL, 12 points in 49 games. He has a good amount of NHL experience. Second round pick in 2016. I'm going to go Dylan Gambrell here and hope that he continues to develop. At least he does have another year at $700K as opposed to having to risk it with Donato as an RFA. St. Louis Blues now, I have nothing to say here. Bang. Vladimir Tarasenko, no doubt. No way it can be anyone but Tarasenko. Yes, it would be very interesting to think about Sammy Blais, but you know what? You've distracted me enough, St. Louis. You've done well. I would rather take Tarasenko for 2 years at 7.5 rather than Sammy Blais for 1 year at 1.5 and roll the dice with him. Because Tarasenko, at least I get 2 full seasons out of him. We make a big push. I try to entice him. I give him what you couldn't. I promised the captaincy. I don't know. I already promised it to Landeskog and maybe to Weber, but I'll promise it to Tarasenko too. What the heck? I'll just work it out like that. Evan Fitzpatrick would be a good option too. But I think we got to go Tarasenko here. That's just too tempting to pass up on. The man he's a machine. Everyone forgets Tarasenko because of the injuries that he's been dealing with the last couple of years. The man is a monster. He's a monster, please. The guy's 68 and 76, 66, whatever, 75, 74, 73. Come on, a little respect. Got to be him. Schwartz and Hoffman would definitely be tempting too, for example, but UFAs, no. Tarasenko all the way. Tampa Bay Lightning, they have to lose somebody. Now, if I'm Seattle, do I want Andre Palat, who's maybe better than Yanni Gourde, but has 3 years less, or do I go Yanni Gourde? I don't think I go Tyler Johnson at $5 million until 2024, but Alex Killorn is also tempting me. Maroon, I'm not going to be taking him. Mathieu Joseph is also interesting. If I just want to say, get out of here, Tampa Bay, you can continue to have your cap trouble. Because I am helping Tampa Bay here by taking one of these people. I'm doing them a favor. Everyone, a few years ago with Vegas, was doing their best. They were giving up their picks, their prospects to make things happen. Now, no. Teams are helping each other. They're trading with one another to help each other from having to not protect certain people. No one's giving picks to Seattle yet, from what we've heard. It's just, fend for yourself, hit the road, and make it happen by yourselves. We're not helping you. So, but at the same time, I do want to build a good team. I think it comes down to Palat or Gourde. So let's just bring up Tampa Bay's numbers here. If I look at Palat and then I click on Tampa Bay, so 46 points in 55 games. Is it John Cooper who said that Palat makes everything happen? So he's more than just a glue guy. He's a catalyst. Yanni Gourde had 36 and 56. I like Yanni Gourde a lot. Coming from Saint Narcisse in Quebec. But I think, yeah, it's got to be Palat. We got to go Palat. And we still keep Tampa in some cap trouble. Even though Killorn is great as well, I don't think that injury is going to be a big deal. He comes from Halifax, one of the few Nova Scotians. So, got to be Palat, I think, in my mind. Even though Jan Ruta and Cal Foote are all really good, Palat is very tough to pass up on. We're currently very close to the NHL salary cap, so we have to keep note of that. We'll absolutely be making some changes later on. Now, Alex Kerfoot versus Jared McCann. It has to be one of those two on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Pierre Engvall is also interesting. But Kerfoot or McCann are going to be the ones, one of those two are leaving for sure. McCann, they just traded a prospect for him, and now they're going to lose him. So that is crazy. Hollander, they traded to the Penguins just to protect Justin Hall. So, who I don't know if he'd even get taken anyways. So that's a questionable move by Kyle Dubas. Kerfoot or McCann, it comes down to those two. Kerfoot costs more, and he's a UFA in 2023. McCann costs less, and he's an RFA, but a year prior. Honestly, I'm going to go Jared McCann here. I know it's very sad for the Leafs fans out there, but I think this makes the most sense, and I'm sorry that they traded for him because they're about to lose him. 32 points in 43 games. He was good for the Penguins, especially this last season. Yeah, especially. Jared McCann, welcome. Vancouver Canucks now. Not going to be El Edler. He's going to free agency. Not going to be Louis Eriksson unless there's some big deal going on. Jake Virtanen is going to prison, so that's not happening. Not any crazy prospects here. I do like Matthew Highmore, but Petrus Palmiu, legend in the NHL, 19 or 20 world. Cole Lind is probably the only guy that really gives me the most interest when it comes to prospects. Now, but here's the thing, you got to say who's the starting goalie. I said that it's going to be Ben Bishop and Chris Driedger. Could Braden Holtby play in there? Maybe, maybe it's Holtby instead of Bishop. I'd say Holtby most likely goes to free agency, and I think that they're going to take a skater, Seattle will, from the Vancouver Canucks. Don't think it's going to be any of these big cap hits here. It'll probably be someone, like I said, with a low amount of money, and the more I say it, the more I agree with myself. Cole Lind. He is a former first-round pick, I believe, or am I deluding myself? Or am I thinking of Klim Kostin? Yeah, okay, yeah, just outside the first round. He was a 33rd overall pick, 8 points in 8 games with Utica this last season, 44 and 61 the year before. Yeah, Cole Lind, let's do it. Washington Capitals. Ovi's not leaving, so don't even think about that. I don't think a goalie is going to happen here. Vanacek is interesting. But, I don't know, expensive cap hits on the defenseman here. Brendan Dillon is probably the guy, making 3.9 till 2024. Don't have too much to say about that. I think it has to be him. Hagelin does provide some intrigue, but I'm going to go Brendan Dillon. He is a solid guy for the Caps. He would be a big loss as well, as they traded quite a bit for him, didn't they, at the trade deadline to the Sharks? Brendan Dillon, it was for a second-round pick and a conditional third, who became Tristan Robbins, and he played 2 games in the Barracuda. Okay, so we don't know enough about that, but still, second and a third form, I think it'll be Brendan Dillon. Winnipeg Jets now. We're over the salary cap already, so we're gonna work on it, don't worry. Stastny may very well come to Seattle as a free agent, but I don't think they'll select him. I would lean Mason Appleton here. I know there's some other good youth like Sami Niku or Luke Green, for example. So that's tough right there as well. We only have 6 defense, so we have a lot of forwards. I know we're going to go back and change some forwards for defense. This, like I said, this was me in my perfect world, but we're not done yet. We got to refine and say what is the team actually going to be like. So I hope you didn't just take my first picks for face value. In an NHL 21 world, I think I definitely take Luke Green, but I was just looking up the stats here. I don't know. I don't want to go too much off of a couple, only 24 games in the AHL here, but they weren't super convincing. Mason Appleton, though, RFA rights are there for another season. He was good. He was good this last season with Winnipeg. He did what he had to do for them. He had a big role for them. 25 points in 56 games. Yeah, I'm going to go Mason Appleton here. So that brings us to 22 forwards, 6 defense, 2 goalies, and we're over the salary cap by a few $1,000,000. No problem at all. Let's start going back through and refining which forwards we think might get changed for defensemen. Coming to the Flyers now. I'm back on the Flyers here. Voracek, with the cap hit plus needing to get a defenseman instead, I think it would make sense to go for Ghost instead. 4.5, UFA for a couple more seasons, still have his rights. So I think it'll be Ghost. I don't know if I think it'll be Ghost, but if I'm creating the team, I'd say I would go for Ghost because I'm trying to say who are my most expensive forwards and can I switch them out for a defenseman. At the same time, we have to think about who's going to be our third goalie. Rant is too good for third goalie. Booth is interesting, but Raskin Halak won't be. Carter Hutton, not going to spend money on him for that. So it may very be, I'm back on the Blackhawks here, Dalia or Subban. Dalia versus Subban is a tough one. Subban would be someone who got selected by both teams. Well, actually, he didn't get selected by Vegas, but he got signed by Vegas. Dalia was 1-3-1. Subban was 6-8-1. Both with small sample sizes. But Subban, former first-round pick, he's had much more NHL experience, so I'd probably go Malcolm Subban here. I'll switch that up. The Vegas Golden Knights only took 3 goalies. I don't think that the Kraken would take more than 3, so I'll lock those 3 goalies in. I don't think I'll touch those again. Yeah, there's some good Hunter Miska, and like I said before, Capo Kakinen, guys like that. There's still, even Montembeault. There are good other options. Well, not Montembeault because they're already taking Drieger. Michael McNiven would be good. So always a ton of different permutations. Let's view the team for a moment here. Who's making the most money? Tarasenko, Drouin, Domi, Palat, Bailey. So maybe we go back to Tampa Bay. And you still have to sign Landeskog. That's going to cost some money. That's why the salary cap's up there, because I believe it's understanding Landeskog's prior cap hit. That's why it's thinking about our cap hit from 2020, the 21 season. So think about who would be the top 12 on this team. Who would be the 12 forwards? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I guess. Then 12 Gabe Landeskog. So that leaves Christian Fischer as an odd man out, for example. So I could probably go to the Coyotes and swap out Christian Fischer for somebody, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, not terrible, but I don't know if I want Bean and Clegg in the NHL just yet. So if I go back to drafting the team, go to the Coyotes, take out Christian Fischer, and I'll replace him with one of these defensemen. I guess with it comes down to, can they convince these players to sign with them? Jason Demers, for example, I'd probably like him the most. He's the youngest with the least, well, youngest comparatively here, with the lowest cap hit. So I'm going to go with Jason Demers, I suppose. And that'll adjust the, we need to hit 9 minimum defensemen. So hopefully that helps out a little bit. Although it does push us over the salary cap. But remember, at the moment we have $13.9 million to sign Landeskog, Lind, Shaw, Benson, Richie, Demers, Clegg, blah, blah, blah. So $13.9 million to get that happen. A big chunk of that goes to Gabriel Landeskog. So we're not really over the salary cap, but in theory, according to last season, we would have been. We need to swap one more forward for a defenseman. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and Landeskog is 12 again. So Appleton might be the odd man out. Well, he would be the 13th forward, sorry. So maybe a guy like Lafferty is an odd man out. I think that's exactly it, because the Penguins were a team that I was considering of going for Marcus Pettersson instead. So I'll scroll down to the Pittsburgh Penguins and I'll take Marcus Pettersson. Yes, the salary cap takes a hit, but he is a UFA till 2025. Well, signed till 2025. $4 million is not terrible. I think we can definitely deal with that. We just have to adjust the salary cap a little bit. But I think it's worth it for Marcus Pettersson, who's proved himself to be a very solid defenseman for the Penguins. I'm not a huge fan of the defensive depth. I like the top 4, but we could probably use some more defensive prospects in here. Like if I could swap out one of these, like either Richie, because Richie would make the NHL actually. So Richie and Landeskog is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That leaves Gambrell and Appleton both as the odd men out. So I'd probably switch somebody else for some sort of forward prospect for a defensive prospect maybe. Like the Sharks, I saw Nick Malak on the Sharks, right? So if I go back to San Jose and I swap out Dylan Gambrell for Nick Malak, looking at Malak, is he also a first-round pick? From LaSalle. He was a second-round pick, yeah, by the Avalanche. On the Barracuda, 9 points. But again, can't always just look at the points. he was traded to San Jose for Antoine Bibeau, which was a pretty lateral move, I suppose, because I don't know if Bibeau has really done anything for the Avalanche. Played 2 games with 1 win. Yeah, so that was just a dump pretty much for Malak. So you know what? Let's do it. Nick Malak, I don't know if you're liking your future in San Jose with Burns and Carlson and Vlasic and Jeremy Roy. I don't know who else. I watch, isn't he on the Ducks now? But in the system, let's go Nick Malak. I'll let the Sharks keep Dylan Gambrell. So that leaves us right now with $11 million in cap space. If Landeskog's making whatever, $8-9 million, it leaves us with $2-3 million to get Nick Richie signed to an NHL contract. Jason Demers as well. Yeah, this is pushing it a little bit. So maybe Nick Richie, if he doesn't have it, let me go back to the Boston Bruins here, because Nick Richie, I don't know if I can sign him to $2-3 million. Maybe Connor Clifton or Jérémy Lauzon would be a better idea. Zaboral, I don't think so. Let me look at Lauzon. Also a Quebec native from Val d'Or. Yeah, he's played some good NHL experience. Let's do it. Jérémy Lauzon instead of Nick Richie. He's an RFA. I get his rights for a couple of years. He's cheap, and I don't need to think about having to sign Nick Richie to a $3-4 million contract and then losing him. So now I'm down to $10.1 million in cap space, but I only need to sign Gabe Landeskog to a really big deal. Jason Demers is the one that's making me a bit iffy. I'm trying to make this as realistic as possible. Drieger's going to have to get signed, so I'm not quite sure if we're there just yet. Maybe a forward has to be dropped at this point. Maybe one of the big names here, like Palat, Bailey, or Dadonov, gets swapped out. Let me think about that for a second. Because I could just go Jan Ruda if I'm selecting from Tampa Bay, but that's a big hit because I'm planning on Palat being a big guy for me, right? So maybe Jason Demers can't stay because he's going to be wanting like, I don't know, $3.5 million. Maybe I go back to Christian Fischer, or I just go ahead and take a prospect instead and say forget it. Not a lot of prospects to choose from, unfortunately. So okay, Christian Fischer only making $1 million. Let's go back to him. Tough here. I don't have the tough part is there's not a lot of centermen. Because if I go like Tarasenko, Domi, and whatever Palat on my first line, maybe Drouin gets swapped for Cale Fleury at this point with the IR. But he can just be put on IR, and we don't have to pay the salary, so that'll be a bit more realistic. But maybe Drouin gets moved for Cale Fleury. I was really having him up in the air for a while. So let me play with that. Let's change Drouin for Fleury. Now we're under the salary cap. We have less forwards though, so now is the point where I'd probably go back and switch a defenseman for a forward. Only 16 forwards in the system. So if I could switch maybe, I don't know, Shillington for someone, or even Malak back for Gambrell. But I think, let me see Calgary one last time. I'm very close to locking this team in. Any younger guys? Not quite. Got Buddy Robinson, great name. Matthew Phillips, actually. Yeah, Matthew Phillips. Let me see Matthew Phillips. Matthew Phillips. Born in 98. He's from Calgary as well. 21 points in 30 games in Stockton. 6th round pick. 33 and 38 the year before that. Instead of Shillington. You know what? Looks like we have enough defense in the system, so I guess we could go Matthew Phillips there. And I think I'm ready to lock this team in. Tarasenko, Domi, Palat, Bailey, Dadonov, McCann, Yarncrow, Nemesnikov, Milano, Fisher, Appleton, Gauthier, Phillips, Benson, Shaw, Lind, Landeskog, Ghost, Pedersen, Dillon, Miller, Butcher, Lauzon, Malak, Fleury, Clegg, Bean, Bishop, Drieger, Subban, because Subban will be the third goalie. I think I'm ready to lock that team in. That leaves us with $14.6 million of cap space. Let me just play with this in my mind for a second. So if I break out the calculator, I give myself 14.684. Let's say I'm giving, I don't know, let's go crazy, 9.5 to Landeskog. That leaves me with 5.1. I give Drieger, let's say, I don't know, 2.75 to be my backup. That leaves me with 2.4 million. And I have just RFAs who can get contracts that won't affect the salary cap, hopefully, as much. I don't know, giving them $700K and stuff like that. So I think that this is a realistic team. I think this is going to be quite accurate to the actual team. I'm going to go ahead and publish it. I'm going to go ahead and put it whatever the cap friendly. So let's call it Data 782's predictions. I don't know, we'll call it that. Publish. I got to log in. Great. So I'll do that later on. But if you want to go on Cap Friendly, it will be there. So there it is, my friends. The expansion draft is just around the corner on Wednesday, July the 21st. Very excited to see that. I think this is pretty close to how the team might look. Of course, backdoor deals might be happening. Maybe they're very high on a certain prospect. Maybe there's something they know that I don't about a player who's on IR, like Sonny Milano. How long is he out? Drouin, is he coming back? Weber, is he coming back? Blah, blah, blah. But these are my predictions for the team. Hope you enjoyed the type of podcast type-ish episode. If you'd like to see more of things like this, just let me know. I'd love to do more. I love just talking hockey and talking sports in general. So that would be something I'm very much open to. If you are new to the channel, lots of things happen here, including mostly NHL franchise mode on 21, as well as NHL 07 Dynasty mode. So give the channel a little look. Leave a like if you're excited for the Seattle Kraken. Consider subscribing if you want to be made aware of future uploads. And thank you for spending the time. Looking forward to seeing how much of this comes true. And I will see you all in the next one.